Hi everyone, in today's video we're going to be discussing the angles study guide. First, we have the exterior angle theorem. Remember, the exterior angle is the angle outside of the triangle. Exterior meaning outside. So the exterior angle X is equal to angle A plus angle B, the two angles that are furthest from the exterior angle, which we call our two remote angles. X is equal to angle A plus angle B. Next, we have perpendicular bisector. The definition of a perpendicular bisector is that it creates right angles, 90-degree angles, and a bisector cuts a segment into two congruent segments. So for example, we have a perpendicular bisector in this diagram, EA, and it's cutting ZT into two congruent parts, ZA congruent to TA. And it also is creating 90-degree angles, and we labeled them 1 and 2. So angle 1 is congruent to angle 2 because they're both 90-degree angles. Remember, the word perpendicular means that there are 90-degree angles, and bisector means that they create two congruent parts. Next, we have vertical angles. Vertical angles are congruent. We always look for an X. Angle 1 is congruent to angle 3. They're across from each other, and they have the exact same value. Angle 2 is congruent to angle 4. They're across from each other and also have the exact same value. Also remember, I have a straight line here, so technically angle 1 plus angle 2 is going to be equal to 180 degrees. Those are supplementary angles. Same thing goes with angle 3 and angle 4. If I add angle 3 plus angle 4, that would equal 180 degrees. I could look at this straight line. So angle 1 plus angle 4 is equal to 180 degrees. And angle 2 plus angle 3 is equal to 180 degrees. So be aware that when there's an X, we have vertical angles. Angles that are across from each other are congruent. And if there's a straight line, angles that are adjacent or next to each other add up to 180 degrees. They are supplementary. Next, we have angle bisector. An angle bisector cuts an angle into two congruent angles. So for example, MS bisects the angle OMR. Here's angle OMR. Remember, anytime I see the word bisector, it creates two congruent parts. So I'm going to label angle 1 and angle 2. So angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. They have the exact same value. A bisector creates two congruent parts. Next, we have an isosceles triangle. In an isosceles triangle, we have two congruent sides and two congruent base angles. So for example, angle D is congruent to angle F. Those are the base angles. And DE is congruent to FE. Those are the two sides. So remember, the base angles are opposite of the congruent sides. Next, we have parallel lines create congruent alternate interior angles. For this, we always want to look for a Z, either a backward Z or a forward Z. So for example, in the diagram, I labeled angle 1 and angle 2. Angle 1 is congruent to angle 2 because those are the angles that are alternate interior because they form a Z. Next, I have parallel lines create same side interior angles, and those angles are supplementary and add up to 180 degrees. So remember, I have outside angles, and I have inside angles, and outside angles. So if I have two angles that are inside my two parallel lines and on the same side, they're same side interior, and they're supplementary, meaning they add up to 180 degrees. So I add 6x plus 30 plus 2x plus 6 equals 180 degrees, and then I'm able to solve for x. And remember, if they're asking you to find the angle measurement, you would substitute x back into the angle measurement. Next, we have parallel lines create corresponding angles. Remember, corresponding angles means that they're in the same position. So, for example, this 26 degrees is also 26 degrees where x is. Those are corresponding angles. And finally, we have some helpful hints that we always need to remember. So for example, angles in a triangle add to 180 degrees. So I have angle A, B, and C in a triangle. A plus B plus C is equal to 180 degrees. Supplementary angles, or angles on a straight line, add up to 180 as well. Always look for a straight line. An equilateral triangle has 3 congruent sides and 3 congruent angles. All those angles measure 60 degrees.